We're glad to be here today. Today is a review of something that amazing that happened with us, but also with you, because many, if not all, either were praying for us or donated financially, gave your time to like make uniforms, other things like that. So you were with us. And so what we're doing today is we are just giving you a little report out. Now, our goal is not to tell you where we went, what we did, or just absolutely how awesome it was. Because honestly, if we did that, you would find this talk kind of boring, because we would throw in a lot of like our personal jokes, the inside jokes that we know, and y'all would be like, what's this all about? So we're not doing that. You'd find it boring. Instead, we want to share how what we did personally impacted each one of us, and how God changed us on this team. Now, I will say that you probably noticed that we have an extra chair up on stage, and that's by design. That chair represents our Ugandan team, the missing team members that are not here. They're not here with us physically, but they're here with us in spirit. And I do happen to know many of you are watching online, so that's great. So we send our love and we send our appreciation to Misty, to Daniel, to Rita, to Peter, Rose, Adam, and Chef Rita down there on the bottom right. So everywhere we went, they joined us, or we joined them, and we were instrumental together. It was a tightly knit team that we had, and so today is no exception, and they're with us in spirit and online. So, I want to say to them, Tubasubwa, which, as if you don't know Ugandan, means we miss you. We, as a team, miss them tremendously. At least that's what I believe it means, because my coach taught me well, but I may have said something that's going to prevent me from going back to Uganda. I hope not. So, Rita, I hope I made you proud. I really do. On Wednesday's newsletter, hopefully that you saw, I really shared statistics from what occurred while we were there. Again, as an engineer, I like to measurables, and you can see those written on the screen. Misty wrote that's her handwriting, so it's a whole lot nicer than mine. I want to just hit real briefly highlights. We ministered at a Dove Christian Fellowship in Namunguna. I sure hope I said that right. But we ministered there. That was the first Dove church that was in all Uganda. It was established and set up by Pastor Ephraim Tumasumi, and now he gave that to another pastor, but he was there when we went on Sunday. So that was real exciting. That was one of the very first few things we did. We helped launch a new Dove church at Misty's compound, which we don't know for certain, they will be able to tell us. We think it's going to be called God's Garden of Grace Community Church. If it's not, Misty will maybe real time and let me know that's not it. But that was great that, we did not expect that a church would be launched while we were there, but God was moving. That's exciting. We also gave communion to this new church plant. That was the first time that they ever took communion as a group there. So it was very special that while we were there, we got to give and participate in communion with them. First time. It was fantastic. We ministered at 5 schools, men and women's groups, and provided training, teaching, supplies, and plenty of staff encouragement. So they really received that. We distributed 84 Ugandan Bibles and 5 English Bibles, and there'll be a video later that you see of what they do when they receive a Bible. It's amazing, and it humbled me and probably the rest of the team to see how joyous they were to get a Bible in their own language. Funds were donated so that a fresh well could be drilled in one of the locations that they work with, and that is going to be done in November, right? Yeah, so it's going to be done in November. You just couldn't arrange it while we were there. We could have stayed to help, but we had other things to do to come back here. So that's going to be exciting and a blessing for the people. We gave away 72 chickens, 1 cow, and 6 goats to families. And these weren't just like meals. These were things that they're going to, like, offspring, continue, and then to bless others. So let me tell you, giving away chickens is a new experience probably to every single one of us here. That you'll see some photos of that. It's crazy. 4 sewing machines and 1 overlock sewing machine was donated to the schools that they work with. And what that will be used is to help train other people, to train the ladies who are there so they can get a life skill and can earn money, and it's just a powerful thing for them. 11 soccer balls were given to the schools. Some are still left there. I'm trying to work on them to use footballs, but that's not a thing yet over there. Various supplies, including ladies who were part of this team. Your uniforms that you sewed were distributed out, and they were well received. And the last thing I have here is funding was provided to help Congolese women gain personal freedom and personal freedom from the abuse that they're getting because of what's happening in the Congo right now. So they did one thing where a small number of women were trained, and then it just exploded, and now more are coming to just get that freedom. And so, these were things that, are measurables, you can, touch and feel, and you can see it. Like I said, measurables, that's really important to an engineer. But there's also things that happen internally with each one of us that you can't really measure or you can't necessarily see. But what I wanted to do today is to have the team share you that stuff, because those are the stories that really minister, and those are the testimonies that help change lives and people. So Dan, this was your 3rd trip. You're the seasoned vet of the team here. So how was this trip different for you, and maybe what did you take back?
For me, I was texting my younger son, Owen, maybe at day 2, and I was saying 5 of the team members are really having their lives changed. And he texted me back and said, "Isn't that a little condescending? What about you?" And I said, "Well, my life was changed when I went with you that first year, and that's why I keep coming back." But it was different this year. I was really excited to establish missions or reestablish missions with Crossroads. And I hope that maybe this will inspire some of you to go over to Uganda. But I realize that some people probably will never go on an international missions trip. So I was thinking about what could I share for somebody that may never go. Why would this presentation be important to them? And I was really thinking about 1 Corinthians 12. We've been talking about redemptive gifts, and we've been talking about different spiritual gifts. And Paul uses the analogy of parts of the body. He said that all parts of the body are necessary. So if somebody here decides not to come to Crossroads, we would have lost a gift that's necessary to us locally. But I started to think that that's also an analogy for the church on a macro or international level. Because for me, going over there, initially I thought, one of my redemptive gifts is the gift of giving, and it's like a pure thing where I could go over there and we could give and minister, and no one would ever be able to reciprocate. So it's kind of pure and it's kind of beautiful. But what I didn't take into account was how the people were going to change me in such a profound way. The Ugandans are so warm and hospitable and gracious. They get joy out of very simple things in life. I think internationally, Americans are known as whiners and complainers. We're well known for this. And so Ugandans, they could have many things in life that are not in order or off or unwanted, times where they're suffering, but they could have a simple thing that they receive or get to partake in, and they will sing and they will dance and they will have joy. And I think that it ministers and it kind of changes us when we're over there. They're very resilient people. Uganda is on the list of some of the world's most corrupt nations. So there's a lot of down pressure in their main institutions. And yet they love God and they minister. I was inspired by someone that I've been with him three times on my 3 trips. His name's Daniel. We talk a lot about him. And he was raised, he was kind of a self-made man. He got an education, and he's trained as an electrical engineer. And that could have afforded him a nice lifestyle in Uganda and Kampala. But instead, what he did was he went to a rough neighborhood in Entebbe, right on Lake Victoria. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, but it's also a very, very dark place because a lot of the fishermen in Lake Victoria, they will get drunk or use drugs. They will take their money and they will impregnate women and abandon children. So there's a lot of kids with no grown-ups. It's dark there. There's a lot of witchcraft in the community. So Daniel went there, bought some land, and started building a school there. And he has built, I think he's up to his 4th tier, where he buys concrete and rebar and keeps building this school high. So it's like right in the middle of all this chaos, maybe within 100 yards, there's a brothel that has 50 rooms in it. So in the middle of that, he's collecting kids and educating them and training them in trades. Everything the guy owns is kingdom. He has a house. Before he could get enough space for boarding in his school, he started collecting kids and single moms that were in trouble in his house, and he lived in a tent. So, he's grateful for us going over there, but I'm grateful for him. I'm saying, I don't know a better person than you. Like, I don't know a more pure Christian than you. It's inspiring to me. These people, when we left Kigali Airport and we went beyond the barrier and we separated from the team, it felt like a funeral. We looked around, it was like, only 6 people? Oh my gosh. We felt like we'd lost a part of ourselves. And that's only in 15 days. So it's really incredible. I hope that might inspire some of you to go over, but it's meaningful. I think we need the Ugandans, they need us, but that's just one people group. I think of the church worldwide, how we all need each other, how we all are interdependent on each other. And that's the main point that really hit me this time.
Thank you, Dan. You're absolutely right. It was amazing being over here, seeing the humility of Daniel and what he did. Daniel, you're awesome. And so it was completely inspiring. Tommy Lee, this was your first trip. And I remember one moment I commented, I think we were on the bus, and I just leaned forward and I told you this. How much I noticed that she was in prayer like all the time. Like all the time. There's a speed bump. Tommy's praying for it. So, and there was a lot of that. So, Tommy was actually instrumental in what I will share. So, but more on that later. So, if you will, tell us a little bit about your experience.
My response to his statement on that was, it's my please God help me prayer, because as much as we prepared going into the trip, it was a daily preparing as even while we were over there. And preparing ahead of time, Scott and I both had ended up preparing a lot on the kingdom of darkness versus the kingdom of God. We didn't know that until a couple of days before, but that actually set, it actually set, now I lost my train of thought. It actually set the foundation for everything that we would experience over there, I think. I don't think we had even been on the ground 24 hours, and like Dan was saying, we were in an area with a lot of witchcraft and dealing with praying for healing, prophesying over families. And one of the first things that we noticed when we were hitting the ground running is that how closely we were united in the spirit, where one of us would start, the other would finish. Where one of us was weak, the other was strong. We very quickly figured out how each other's strengths and weaknesses and gifting in the spirit. And it became very much like a hand in glove working together with each other. And from prophesying over a 10-year-old who has this anointing where he will be very strong. He's already shepherding the kids in his school. He very much has a heart for God, and you can see how he will be a leader in the future. To praying over an infant that had the flu, weeks old, and praying over him and watching the Lord just heal so that the wheezing was gone, the fever was gone, and when we left, she was at peace. But also, one of the things that I did mention in the first service was the facing of the witchcraft. How what we say in the spirit so impacts the spirit realm that it elicits a response, a very visual response from those who are demonically oppressed, from the very piercing eyes and recognizing that our praying in tongues, it just wrecks their world, apparently. That elicits screaming and yelling out of them or staring at us. Another instance where we were praying over a woman from Rwanda who had been a part of the genocide. And we were praying over her, and there were parts of it where we were commanding the spirits of violence out, spirits of trauma out. And in healing, I was praying the blood of Jesus over her. And the moment I prayed that over her, a whole new set of just manifested. And that was something that I had not expected. And at that moment, I was very much like Jesus' disciples. I was like, wait a minute, I don't know what to do with this. And so I had very much a learning curve as well. But that was where the team stepped in and we worked together on some of those things. But it drew a very vivid picture on how much our words, when we pray into the spirit, how much damage we're actually doing in the spirit realm to the kingdom of darkness. That was something, too, that I brought back with me. And as much as we prepared going over and we prepared while we were there and we took time and we prayed for each other and we prayed over each other and we prayed for the people that we were there, I began to also think, too, do I do that as much, like just going into work every day? Because that was something that really, impacted me as I came back. You know what? We put a lot of effort into praying intentionally for the trip, for the people that we were going to be meeting. And so I began to think about that on the return is I need to make sure I continue in this as well. So that was some of my experiences.
Fantastic. Yeah. Tom Lee would remind me things. I would just be doing what I think is right. And then Tommy would go, hey, Billy, don't forget. I'm like, oh yeah, thanks, good job. So she was there for me. I so
Got
much
the
appreciate
yes,
it.
mom comments.
Yeah, she really, she kept me pretty squared away. Next person I want you to hear from is Scott. Scott, he was my fellow preaching buddy. And I leaned on Scott, and I'll again tell you more about that. But as you can see from the photos, Scott was also an electromagnet for kids, and they just, I mean, maybe it was a shirt with the Google eyes, or I don't think so. I think it was just Scott. At one point, I looked over at Scott, and he had this little boy just like totally sacked out on him. I'm like, that kid is comfortable. So it was great. It was awesome what your ability to do that. So tell us, something what deeply impacted you.
So I grew up in New Guinea, so a lot of the cultural things wasn't really that different for me. The caring people, the fact that they just loved you no matter what was just amazing. It was kind of like a homecoming for me when I went over to Uganda. And so that part of it was, there was nothing new in that. Having to use different facilities and not having the normal amenities, that was just kind of like going home. So I didn't have any problem with that. But when Dan asked us to go on this trip, I was like, yes. But the other part of me was like, I felt there was a real heaviness on this, that there was a significance to this thing. And so I told him I'd pray about it, even though I really wanted to say yes at the time. And so for a couple of weeks I prayed on it, and the Lord was just like, his comment to me was, you're never going to be the same. And it wasn't so much me, it was the group. It was the church. This had a heavier thing than just me. And he was like, are you willing to do that? And that took some time for me to sit there and say, okay, I'm willing to do that. Not that I did want to do it, but I understood the significance of it, and I didn't want to take that lightly, because there was a lot of things on this trip that was really important. And so I was concerned about unity. I've been on trips where the unity's going out the window the first minute you get there, and it's just a mess. And we set a bad flavor for the rest of the community, and we don't represent God well. And I was praying about that, and that was one of the things that, I wasn't sure about, because I didn't know. I knew Dan a little bit, I knew Billy a little bit, and my wife, obviously. But everybody else, I didn't know him from Adam. So I was like, I can't say whether that's going to work or not. But through that thing, the Lord just basically said, trust me, go for it. And so I said yes, and we said yes. And, it was amazing to get in there and just see how we connected so closely. With our brothers and sisters over there. The team, we talk about it being a team, but it wasn't a team, it was a family. I mean, I can't explain it any other way. And if you haven't experienced a family like that, find one. That's what the church is for. But we just knit so well with the people that were there. They were there to support us, and they were just family. We didn't see them as supporting staff. We saw them as part of our family, as people that were there as brothers and sisters in Christ, that had gifts and abilities that we didn't, that we could enhance them, they could enhance us. And it was amazing to see the Lord work in that, to sit there and watch God transform not only us, but our team in Uganda, the people that we went and saw, that just the ability that God gave us to make change and to see lives impacted, even when we weren't even aware of what we were doing. We had one morning where the night before, the Lord had said to me that we were the Avengers and the tip of the spear. And I was very nervous with that word, and I told Tommy Lee about that in bed, and I was like, I don't know about this one, because I knew what that meant. That meant we had a target on our back. That meant that there were things that Satan was not going to like about what we were doing. And the next morning we woke up, we had Emmy was sick, we had Misty was sick, We had a whole bunch of other things. Billy was really nervous about preaching. So there was all these things going on and we could have sat there and said, yes, yeah, it's just a problem. We're going to have to deal with it. But we actually got into prayer. We interceded for each other. We prayed for each other. We worked on things. We even worked on things in our Ugandan group. We had Rita, who just lost her dad like 2 months before. And we got to minister to her, and she was just weeping on my shirt. And we were all set up with a suit and tie and everything like that for service. And she's crying all over me and just making a mess on my shirt. And she came back later and said, I'm really sorry for messing up your shirt. And I said, you didn't mess up my shirt. You made it more beautiful. And she just gave me a big hug. So one of the other things, I guess I still got time. I got 15 minutes, right? When we were in there, as Tommy Lee had said, the first day we hit there, all hell broke loose, literally, in a lot of ways. And in that, we saw everybody's gifting come out almost immediately. And everybody complimented the other. And it was just, and you sit there and go, Lord, how'd you do that? And he's like, I'm God. But it was just so awesome to see everybody was deferring to whoever had the gifting that was strongest at the time. And when one person was weak, another person was strong. And so we saw that over and over and over again, where the Lord just worked within us. There was no ego involved, which was amazing. I've seen that where ego just takes over and destroys the group. There was none of that. We didn't have any of that on either side. We were all just there to serve and to help and to do. In fact, we got a lot of Misty's people in trouble because we had a hard time letting them serve us because we wanted to serve them too. And so we got our hands slapped a couple of times for saying that's their job. And so, but it was really nice to see how God made that happen. One of the other things I really noticed and that I really missed was there was no political correctness. The cut-ups that we were doing, we'd probably get kicked out of church if we did that in here today. But it was just so good and so peaceful and so real that everybody got to be themselves. And on the last day, when we went through the Genocide Museum in Rwanda, we sat down and had lunch, and we were just discussing. And all our Ugandan friends there gave us Ugandan names. And that was just really special to me. Because where I came from, in New Guinea, you always had a name. You had a local name. So that meant a lot to me. And in there, I was named Dembe, which means peace, which I don't think I've ever been accused of being peaceful. So that was really interesting to me because that's just not who I saw myself, but they were speaking stuff into me.
Yeah, that's good. Very, very good. Just hold that. It's okay. Yeah, Scott's absolutely right about how we were turning people into family when we went to Pastor Ephraim's house. Again, Ephraim is the man, he's a big shot. And they would always just try to leave the people that were staying in his house alone. But he came through and we begged, borrowed, commanded, almost chained him down to say, no, sit with us, talk with us. And let's enjoy one another. And he was like, no, I can't do it because, it's this custom. No. And he's like, all right, I'll do it. And he just sat down. And it was just, it was great hearing from him. It was wonderful. So we made people family. Selectiona, she showed us steadily increasing confidence and strength throughout the whole trip. It just kept growing, and she became a little powerhouse. I don't want to say more. You tell us your experience.
Well, it was all because of Pastor Billy, because he's so awesome that you had to step up. And he made me say that, so just remember. But the truth was, I had just joined the church back in March, I think. And I reached out to Pastor Billy just to connect and see how can I get connected to the church. And in talking, he mentioned, have you considered Uganda missions? And I thought, missions, work-related missions, definitely, but nothing related to ministry. And he said, well, you just think about it. And my analytical brain was thinking about logistics, the cost, how will this all work out, the time off. And I said, okay, I'll pray about it. And he gently nudged me a couple of times. He was like, no pressure, but just so you know, have you thought about it? And early on, there was actually confirmation. The Lord was confirming his hand was on it. And I was sitting there thinking, but how is this going to work out? Because I have not gone to Bible school. I am still walking my own faith life. Who am I to go to a foreign country and tell them, hey, God's great, and tell them how to live, I guess. And there's a weightiness about this, just like Scott said, when it's ministry-related missions, I feel like there's more weight on it and expectation versus if it's just my work-related conference or something. So I didn't take it lightly. There was a lot of prayers. Early on, there was a lot of spiritual warfare. And I also was thinking, I don't know anybody on this team except a little bit about Billy. And that was even scary by itself. So imagine the rest of them, you know. I was terrified. So a lot of fasting and prayers. So I was like, God, give me peace. How are we going to get along here? And then I had met Misty, I think, once or twice in the introductions, but had no clue how the team in Uganda was going to be. And it's 2 weeks commitment versus like 1 day, like pop in and pop out. So a lot of prayers, and the spiritual warfare was heavy. And I felt like this team, this trip was unique. There was something different in what we were going to go and accomplish. It wasn't a momentary thing. It was a generational thing. And in that, one of the things that God highlighted was identity was a key thing for us within ourselves, and then what we're going to do there. And I think when Misty came here in September, she confirmed the identity in children. They're not really supported, they're not as valued, and that became one of the main focal points. And then we were told, come up with a story so you can share. Whenever you get called on, you're going to have to say something. And I thought, what am I going to say? Like, I have testimonies, but between the language barrier, cultural nuances, how are you going to deliver a message to somebody that's going to pierce their heart and impact them that they will change? I can just give you a testimony today, but it may not impact you. So it really had to be God ordained or God led. So my prayer was, God, I'm just going to show up. Please let your presence go before me, that they see you, they see your love, receive your love before they see me. And with these children, this is the second day. This was a really special time. And right before this picture was taken, the principal did his introduction, a little bit before that actually, and he said some of the children had been sexually abused, which crushed my heart. This is a primary school, which means I think they're up to grade 7 or 8, grade 7 or 8. And looking at their smiling faces, and this was a Saturday, we expected 50 children, a couple of hundred showed up. And then they proceeded to say, we have gifts for them. We didn't plan for any gifts. We had some used clothes and donations, but really didn't have anything. So my heart was just really crushed, and seeing their gleeful smiles, and they're just so happy that you're there. And Uganda is it's abject poverty there. And we were in a slum here. So I couldn't participate. I told Pastor Billy multiple times, like, I feel terrible, I can't do this. So I withdrew myself, and I just went and hung out with the kids, ended up dancing with them. And this was actually a special day because the first day, I felt like God was working it out, just as Scott said, the gifts were coming out. God was revealing who had what and how we were all going to work together. So the first day was a revelation with Tommy Lee and I. And Tommy Lee's countenance shifted when she started seeing me pray. And there was a shift because the next house we went to, it was just, we encountered a witch, and it was just different, something we don't see here. And then the next day, it was Dan and I got partnered, and how Jesus partnered his disciples 2 by 2 and led them, said, go. We got partnered, and it was very significant for me. We were walking through these slums with the children. We were grouped up with children. We took them to their homes, and we were praying for them. And I got to minister with Dan for the first time, and it was really touching to see his father's heart come through, and how he was, praying blessings over children, blessings over even moms, because most of the women were home, and just imparting that blessing because there was an absence of father's blessings. the father's blessings was missing, even in the marriage and the unity. So getting to witness that and partner with him just really moved my heart. And 5 minutes will not do justice to, what happened there, and I feel like it'll continue to happen there. Some of the things we did and prayed over, I feel like we won't see the fullness of it maybe until we get to heaven. But it was just such a blessing. I know Ugandan team is watching, and Rita, Peter, Alan, Misty, Daniel, Rose, and the kids, really, you made it like family. And that family, I think, just carried us through, and the confidence grew partly because, I started to learn, okay, how do you relate to them? How do you work with them? And they just made it really smooth. So if any of you are considering it, I would just really encourage you, think about it, pray on it, and it might just be as life-changing for you as it has been for us.
Right on. Absolutely. So, Emmy, you were my wild card.
Thank
you. Seeing her on her first international trip, whether just like going wherever or even just on a mission trip, that in and of itself was a blessing to me that I got to experience it. Her mom's working through jealousy a little bit, but it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. Yeah, but it was truly a blessing for me to experience that with her. But go ahead and share some of the stuff that you experienced.
Happily. So for me going on this trip, I was initially really nervous because I was battling some really severe health issues to the point where it totally turned my life upside down. And I was in and out of the hospital and doctor's offices once a week? A lot. And so for me, my diagnosis was devastating because I knew and I know that I'm called to missions. Long story short, I plan on being a full-time missionary once I graduate. So once I got sick and, couldn't handle just the basics, I questioned God, I questioned my calling, and I got obviously really nervous for my future. So when the opportunity rose for me to go to Uganda, I said, of course. I'm not going to speak for anyone else. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. But I knew that this was a risk. There was so many unknowns. But what I did know, even as we were just stepping on the plane, is that I serve a good God. And I knew that he was going to protect me to something that he's called me to. I didn't have it figured out, and that was okay. But I also knew that I was probably a little crazy to even agree to go to Uganda because some days I couldn't get out of bed. And now I'm going to Uganda. But I knew that God was calling me there. And something that I had to meditate a lot on is who would I be to tell the Lord no because of my circumstance? I knew that he would make a way, and that he did. I can now say that I'm off all my medications, and I feel amazing. I'm pretty much back to what normal was for me before I got sick. And so many people were praying for me while we were there, which was weird because, I'm thinking I went overseas to pray for people and not have them pray for me. But it was incredible. I know you kept reiterating to me, by his stripes we're healed. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But I am healed. So thank you, Jesus, for that. But in the middle of the trip, Scott asked me, he was like, has this trip been everything that you've expected? And I was like, absolutely not. Because I walked into this trip with zero expectations. And so my prayer as we were preparing for this trip was, Lord, I just want to do what you want us to do, not my own subconscious agenda, have your way, etc. And so the Lord was very faithful to us in every aspect and truly just blew me away at the impact that we were able to have with being there for just a short time. And so in that, a highlight for me was being able to pour into the girls my age, whether it was just speaking or, having girl time with them. But I received letters from this one girl saying how much it impacted and encouraged her that we came to her school. So that put things into perspective for me because, I'm over here thinking kind of what you were thinking, we're only here for 2 weeks. What impact can we really have? But, when we still hear testimonies pouring in from Misty in the group chat, and when you see people in real time running up to the altar to accept Christ, it stirs something in your heart. And so there was some really spiritually intense moments, like you guys were saying. Hell got mad a lot of times, and it was so cool. But our team, not just the 6 of us, but Misty and her staff as well, just kept meditating on how sweet the unity of this team was. And I think that really made all the difference, and that was totally God. But I think we can all say that we've changed. And, it puts a lot into perspective, just realizing how much we have, how good we have it. We have clean water, the electricity works. I saw on Google last night that the average Christian household owns 3 to 4 Bibles, and that is definitely not the case there. So for me, I miss it. I miss the people, and the Lord has totally broken my heart for Uganda, and I can't wait to go back and hopefully stay for a while. But I don't know how much I'm allowed to share right now, so I'm going to stop talking. But I just want to personally say thank you. Thank you, church, for your generosity, for your encouragement, and your dedication to pray for our team. This trip and the seeds that we're able to sow there wouldn't have been able to happen if it weren't for you guys sowing into our team, believing in us, and praying for us, of course. So thank you for your support and for coming alongside of us.
Amen. Yeah, I remember being on the bus with Daniel, and Daniel and Emmy were talking, and Daniel's like, "You got to get off this medicine," and I'm like, "Dude, you're like perhaps a little boundaries here, maybe." But I was like, "Hey, let God do his thing," and so she was amazing. She did say that she didn't want to get up, but she did. Daniel even commented at the end that she was like his superhero because she was just there all the time. She did everything that was asked of her. Never once did, if she not feel well, did it hold her back. I was probably more like being like a concerned parent going, "Are you doing all right, Em? You doing all right?" But then towards the end, I just got like, whatever. And I really did. And it was like, I'd be like, "Hey, Selection, how's she doing?" "Okay, good, that's fine." Tommy, "Yeah, good. Rita, what's happening?" And it's good, whatever. If she needs something, she'll come to me. And that was a testimony to how God was working in the situation. Now me, how God's working in a situation. I'll tell you something. I'm going to tell you something that happened post coming back, okay? Because it makes a difference for what happened there. And I'm going to tell you a story from Mark chapter 4, verses 25 through 43. And it's when Jesus calms a storm. The first thing, late the day in the evening, Jesus said to his disciples, hey dudes, let's go out to the other side. Let's go. And then it says, leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. Okay, so they took him along just as he was in the boat. And you know the message, or you know the story. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat, and it was nearly swamped. And Jesus was asleep in the front of the boat. And then the disciples are all freaking out. "All right, we're going to drown, Jesus. Oh, my goodness, we're going to drown. Don't you care?" And then Jesus gets up and he says, "Quiet, be still." And the wind died down and it was completely calm. And then Jesus, he says, hey dudes, why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? And then it says they were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." And we know this. We know this story. And it sounds so cool. We got a song, Oceans, and we sing it and like, the winds and the waves obey him. Oh, it's so beautiful. And it really is. Don't get me wrong. But let's look at what really happened here. Jesus says to them, "Hey, let's go to the other side." And then they took him along just as he was in the boat. And it's like a piece of Samsonite luggage. They brought him with him, and they stuck him on the front of the boat and didn't do anything with him, and then he falls asleep. Everybody else is awake. because, they're freaking out. But Jesus is asleep. He's not engaged. He's not part of it. He's there, but he's not active. And then he gets up and he says, come on, guys, let's, be still, be quiet, nonsense. And then nonsense goes away. And then Jesus lovingly rebukes them. And even after he lovingly rebukes them, it still says they're afraid. They're like, who is this? So let's not forget that, because that's really important. But I also want to tell you that was me. So the real issue becomes, the real issue becomes when we started on this mission trip, Misty told us, hey, there's going to be at least two opportunities to preach. Everybody's going to get a chance to talk. But there's going to be at least two preaching times. And I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be Dan and it's going to be Scott, because nobody needs to hear from me. I'm just, I want to help everyone do their thing and let everybody else shine. And so that was my thought. But I also had a message just up my sleeve, just in case something like Misty actually says, no, I want you to preach. Not going to happen. So Misty, day 3, she says, while we're at Ephraim's house, Pastor Ephraim's house, she says, Billy, you have to preach. And it was like a gut punch, because I didn't want to do it. I really didn't want to do it, because Ephraim, as I said, at least once, he's the man. And he's the leader of all the Ugandan churches. Everybody reports to him. He's a big shot. He founded the church. He gave the church to someone else. But he still goes there. And I felt inadequate. I felt, nervous. I felt like no one's going to really want to listen to what I have to say. And I was just thinking, woe is me. Like, why me, Lord? No, it's supposed to be Dan. But Missy says it's me, so I got to prepare this. Hey, I got this message up my sleeve. I'm going to pull it out and use it. And I was getting ready I sat down, was getting ready to just kind of go over it. And God says, that's not what you're doing. Oh, that hurt, because that means I got to prepare something fresh. And let me tell you, when I preach here, it takes me 2 weeks to really prepare everything, to really think, dig, and everything. And I thought, how in the world am I going to do this? At that church right there, how am I going to preach without my notice that I have? I was terrified. So God shows me what to write. I write it all down in my book, and I don't know what time it was, but it was late-ish. Normally the Ugandans are asleep by this time, but those of us Americans, we stay up because that's what we do. And I finished writing, and I closed my little tomb, and I put it there, and I go out, because I'm still thinking continuously, if I say this and they look like that, what am I going to do? I've got all that running through my head, and I go out in the living room, and all the people are praying. And I want to, divert away from them, because I'm doing this on my time, Jesus is in the suitcase up front. I got to do it on my time. And so they eventually corral me and say, we need to pray for you. And man, I didn't want it. I didn't want to do it because I had to pace. That's what I needed to do. I needed to pace and think and ponder. But I did. I let them pray. And as they prayed, I just got peace. It was like, I got this. Now, it still felt like it took 45 minutes, probably 3, but their prayers were amazing, and of how they grounded me and kind of opened Jesus up out of the suitcase for me. And it was great. Next morning, but just because things are great and things are good and God's working doesn't mean that it's like yellow brick road the rest of the way. When I got up in the morning, I had a cramp in my calf that I thought, I can't even walk. Dan's going to preach after all. That went away. And then I put my dress shirt on, and I thought, oh my gosh, in the Ugandan air, it shrinks and I can't close it. Dan took care of me for that. He fixed my tie. It's like, this is great. Yeah, so if you look close, I'm not really buckled up there. But we went to the church, and I felt peace. It was good. I get up there to preach, and as I say the title of the message, the pastors all up front, they Google eyes, and I thought, I'm either saying something really good or really bad, but I'm going to keep going because this is what I've got for the day. When I finished, Pastor Ephraim's wife, Joyce, she said, I asked Ephraim if he gave you the topic, and he said no. She said, what you brought was the mission of what they were doing for 2025. And she said, but you have brought a new measure that we have not considered, we have not thought about, we didn't even know. She says, it is truly a rhema word of God. And I was like, it absolutely was, because yeah, it really was. But let me tell you, when I finished the message, I felt I felt relieved. But it wasn't a relief that it's done. It was a relief that I knew I said exactly what God told me to say. And, don't know what's going to happen, but that is what it is. And it really, truly was. So what impacted me the most on that trip was not the fact that Missy said I got to preach, but it was that I was able to really not just carry Jesus with me, but open the suitcase and let him be part of not just the team, but it would be part of me and what I'm doing. And that made the world of difference, where it was completely different the whole rest of the trip. So thank you for doing the prayer thing. That was good, but it was great. So that was my experience. Now, we recognize up here that we just gave you a taste. And it really doesn't do it justice. Even the people in Uganda right now were like, yeah, it's just a taste. But what we asked Em to do was put together a little video. And so we'll just get off the stage right now. We'll let you see this video. It's about 5 minutes long or so, but we really do hope you enjoy. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. The Ugandans also, we thank you from the bottom of your hearts for how you embrace the mission as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Sorry. I'm going in the back.
Yeah.